Hello my beautiful friends, welcome to the channel and today's video where we're going to be reading a bunch of booktuber favorites from 2023. So obviously so many people are doing this one, but it was too fun of an idea not to join in on and try to see if other people whose recommendations I really enjoy, if they're giving all of these books really not even 5 stars, but they are in their best of the year, if they're in all of these people's who I trust the recommendations, if they're their best of the years, maybe I'm gonna come out of this video with quite a few 5 stars. And that's really the hope for today. Is I am definitely hoping that in this video we're gonna come out with a bunch of 5-star reads. So I went about selecting these books in, I don't know, maybe a weird way compared to other people, but I basically just made a list of, as I was watching people's best of videos, I made a list on my phone of all of the books that I was seeing in people's best of lists that I haven't already read. And I was keeping track of how many times I saw certain books and the ones that I saw the most often. And again, this is just people I follow, so there's definitely more of a bias towards fantasy, I'm sure. But I took all these books, their best of, and the ones that are most often repeated, and those are the ones I decided to read today. So I have 10 books, and I'm really excited because there is a very wide array of books that I've wanted to read for a while now, and haven't made the time for, and this is the perfect excuse to get to them. And yeah, just based on what I'm hearing, I do think that a lot of these books are going to be very highly rated for me. So I'm excited. And yeah, I have 10 books. Let's take a look and let's dive in and start seeing what I think of all of them. And as we're going, I'll just go over what books I'm selecting, and yeah, let's just dive into this. One book that I saw recommended over and over again this year, and it was on so many people's top up list, and I think I saw 5 or 6 separate YouTubers that I follow put this entire series on their best of 2023, and this is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So I think that a lot of people put the series as a whole on their best of, not just the first book. And based off the first book, I don't think this is good. I didn't like it. I was not into it, and I don't really care to continue on with any of it. So in this book, we're following a group of special teenagers. I guess that's kind of the best way to describe it. But a group of teenagers who are naturally gifted in Criminal Mind-esque abilities. Not even ability, just, tendencies. So people basically the profilers, I'm blanking on anything else, but the profilers of criminal minds who are able to get into the mind of a criminal and really understand who they're looking for. So we're following this group of teens who've been specially recruited by the FBI. They're being trained, they're being just exposed to different cases to try and build up these skills that they have. And in this book, they get involved in a real life crime. So they kind of borrow some case files from one of the FBI agents they're working with and who's training them, and they get involved in this case that's going on and get really intensely into it and starting to solve it and figuring out what's going on. I think the premise of this is fantastic. I think that this has such an intensely interesting premise, and that I definitely can see it going interesting ways. Just I'm assuming the rest of this series is very similar, where they're following certain crimes and getting involved and using these intense abilities that they have. And yeah, I do think that premise was good. I just don't really think that this first book was that great. I wasn't really into any of the characters, and it was very short, so I'm sure that that's a big part of why I didn't really connect to any of them. But yeah, I didn't connect to any of the characters. I didn't find the case itself that super interesting, and it might just be it's the first book, it's the first story we're introduced to. I'm sure it does get better with time, but I didn't enjoy it all that much, and there was really nothing that stood out as spectacular to me. So I do not get the hype of this one. I don't get this one. I don't feel I understand why this was on people's best of lists. It was definitely I could see it being fun, and I can definitely see a lot of people probably going into it and enjoying it because it was kind of fun, kind of campy, but for me it didn't work. I also don't really read YA anymore, so this is following a bunch of teens, and yeah, it was a lot of high school drama, and I'm not into that at all. So 2.5 rating, unfortunately, not great. And I really don't think I'm going to continue on in the series. Even if I hear, I'm sure that the series gets better after the first book, I don't think I'm interested. So first book unfortunately was a fail. Hey, so the next book that I decided to pick up was Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. So this is her most recent romance release, and I think it came out in like November or December, but despite that, it still made it on like so many people's best of list. So I was really curious to see like what I thought of this one. Plus I've read her other Dreamland Billionaire series, which is like all heirs to this fortune, and each one of them is left like this weird task that they have to complete to be able to get their inheritance. And it was like focused on the heirs of a Disney like corporation. It was interesting. I enjoyed some of the books in that series quite a bit, some of them not as much. So I was curious to see what her other books would be like. Also very pleased to say that this is another billionaire romance, which I do very, very much enjoy. I like seeing how the other half lives and just living vicariously through that. But in this one, we are following Dahlia and Julian. So they were like high school rivals who, I guess in university, had like a kiss or something together. And then Julian very suddenly left after that because his father passed away. And he had like a very, he basically seemingly shut everybody out of his life for a bit as he was dealing with this. And part of that is like he shut Dahlia out. He basically told her, I can't afford to have a distraction right now, and that's you. And then they live their separate lives. Their mothers are best friends. It seems like they're both godparents to Julian's brother's kid, but otherwise they really haven't spent like a significant amount of time together. But Dahlia recently has gone through a breakup with her fiance. It seems that after something to do with the prenup, and like this genetic test that she had to do where it basically told her she can't have kids. So after that, she and her fiance broke up because suddenly she was not everything he wanted. And she decided to move back home for a little bit just as she recovers. She's this like very famous interior designer. She has her own like show, but she also got dropped by the network because the network was owned by her ex-fiance's family, and now she really doesn't know where her career is going. And Julian is a billionaire. He owns a bunch of businesses. One of them he is buying and like redoing a bunch of houses and reselling them and stuff, but he's been feeling very unsatisfied in life, so he decided he needs something kind of to mix up his life, is what he's feeling. So basically his mother asks him, you know how you're doing all these house remodels, and maybe ask Dahlia to come work on one of them, just give her a project so that she can get out of her head and do something. So that's kind of where this one's going. They're going to be renovating a house together and just kind of collaborating on a project, and you know, you can tell that they're going to fall from there. So far it's okay, like really not feeling anything too special, anything too exciting, but I am intrigued. I really don't know how I feel about like these house reno redesign things. Sometimes it feels a bit too real to my life, but like, yeah, I don't know how I love or how I feel about those plots and books, but we'll see. So I finished up Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher, and I do have to say that I did end up enjoying this quite a bit. I really did like the characters' development, their relationship, and it was a pretty fun read. Like, it was definitely one that I couldn't put down once I got into it, which like the first little bit I was kind of iffy about, but I do have to say I really ended up enjoying it. Was this my new favorite romance book of all time? No, but I do think that this is like a very solid recommendation, and it was just very solidly fun for what it was. So much of the book ended up centering on like the rebuild of this old house that our two main characters are doing. So they're renovating this old historical home, and this is kind of this project that Julian, our male main character, started to kind of bring Dahlia out of her, like basically just bring her out of the sadness that she was having over the end of her relationship and the end of kind of what she thought was her career. Just in the sense that so much of her career had been tied to her ex, and now she was really scared, like we're unsure going forward what would happen because they had a TV show together, his family had been financing it, and she wasn't sure like how it would work because she needed to find a new network, she needed to find a new show, all of this stuff. So a lot of it was just them kind of remodeling this home and finding their way back to each other, because they had been like high school rivals who very briefly in university had like a little fling, but then things quickly fell apart after Julian's father passed and he had to go home to manage the family business. And yeah, I thought that the mental health representation was really fantastic in this one, because it was just great like representation of Dahlia Julia trying to manage, or recognizing that she had needed help and trying to find a way to manage this. And Julian was also a fantastic character of like really helping her, or really accepting this help that she needed, and really like being there for her every step of the way. So I really liked it. It did definitely tie into my dream billionaire romance thing, where I want to live vicariously through every character and just pretend in my mind that this could be me one day, maybe with a billionaire. But this was fantastic. Really, really enjoyed it. I'm giving it a 4-star. With romances, the only thing that tends to bump it up to a 5 for me is if I am like ridiculously giddy about it, like I am like giggling because I'm so like obsessed with what's going on, or if it is like so emotionally impactful that I am like sobbing along with it. And this didn't quite do that for me, but I did really, really enjoy it. So yeah, we're gonna say 4 stars. Very solid recommendation. I think actually my favorite book I've read from Lauren Asher so far. And yeah, definitely think that this one was good and does deserve to be on this best of list. Okay, so we have 2 more books to talk about, which I'm really happy with the progress I'm making on this, and also just like in general, I'm really happy with these books. Like I'm maybe not blown away by all of them, but I'm definitely enjoying the majority of these. So let's talk about these 2 that I've read so in the last little bit. So the first one we're going to talk about is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Wow, Taylor Jenkins Reid. And she is somebody who, I don't know, like I feel like I don't like her. I feel like I don't like her books, but then I do read occasionally some that I really like, because like obviously everybody's read 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and loved it. And I do remember that I did, but that was also like 6 years ago. And same with Daisy Jones and the Six. Like that was 2 places I lived ago. So it's been at least like 4 or 5 years. So she's somebody that I really like in my mind feel like I don't like, because I have read her other book, or a few of her other books, but one of them recently was One True Loves, and I hated it. I thought it was like one of the worst writings, like some of the worst writing that I've read in like such a long time. So in my head, I'm going into this kind of like, this is going to be terrible. Like I don't get what the hype is. I don't feel like there's any way that this could actually be good. And yeah, I'm shocked. I'm very shocked. And also I am not a sports person. I do like my occasional sports romance, but through and through, I am not a sports girly by any means. And I think this has genuinely made me want to get into tennis. Like this book has made me want to start following professional tennis and getting into it, because I feel like I understand it now, which I'm sure I don't. But so what is this book actually about? We are following Carrie Soto, we're following her as a young child through her growth to being probably like tennis's greatest star. So she is somebody who's incredibly dedicated, incredibly like intensely into the tennis game. And we're following years and years of her life as she is trying to accomplish her goal of being like the best tennis player ever. And she does. She sets all of these records. She sets records as being like, as having the most Grand Slam wins, the most wins in different competitions, all of these things. And then she has a knee injury and decides to retire when she's in her late 20s. So we're following her about 10 years after the fact, where there's a new up-and-comer in the tennis world who is about to beat her record. And Carrie decides that she wants to get back into tennis game to defend her record and basically just prove that she is still the best player. And this is her in her late 30s. So at this point, she is considered like way too old to be professionally competing in tennis. She's been out of it for years, like really not like practicing anything, not in the shape that she should be, not to the standard that she should be. And she decides that she still wants to give it a try. She still wants to prove that she is the best. So we're following her through the course of the year as she competes in these 4 major championships, and each one is her trying to get a win so that she can technically beat this girl who is about to beat her record. And oh, it is just intensely good. I never in a million years thought I would like it this much, but this was so good. It was so incredibly interesting. Like so, you get so immersed in this tennis world, which yeah, one thing about it, there is a lot of tennis in this book. So if just be prepared for that you are going to have an intense amount of tennis. But yeah, it's very like just you're following and rooting for her in this competition and following her as she's trying to beat all of the odds and get back to where she used to be and really prove to everybody that she still has it. And also one thing is she was so intensely dedicated throughout her years as a tennis player that she was kind of known as the bitch within the community because she wasn't friendly to any of her competition. She wasn't like making friends. She was very much like that term, like I'm not here to make friends. And she kind of starts to realize that like there's more to life than just winning. And it's really, really good. It's really, really good. Yeah, I love the characters. I love just everything about it. So I actually gave this one a 5 stars, and color me shocked. Color me so ridiculously shocked. I did not in a million years think that I would like this one this much, but I am so happy. And now we're gonna talk about one that was a little bit of a disappointment, which is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So I think so many people read this one, well, obviously because the movie came out last year, and yes, the movie was fantastic. So that is definitely why, a big part of why I wanted to read this one in this video too, is I was really hyped after the movie. I truly 100% was like in on it. I was ready to stay in this Hunger Games world. And yeah, the movie was just truly fantastic. So I don't know, like I kept hearing so many conflicting reports of people either saying that this is like a million times better than the movie, or a lot of people saying also that the writing is just a little bit too simplistic. And I think that's more where I fall on the camp, is that I think that the writing felt a bit too young for the story itself. And was the Hunger Games trilogy like revolutionary, incredible writing? No, but it did feel older. It felt more like you're really viewing it from a teenager or more adult lens, versus this one felt like very like more middle grade in a sense. Just something about that didn't really click. Like it just, you're seeing these horrific things. You're seeing as Coriolanus Snow is plotting all of this stuff, and he's kind of, this is basically his villain origin story. And it just really doesn't connect with the way that some of the scenes were depicted, like just how horrific some of the stuff was, versus the writing just felt too simplistic for that. And I also didn't love being in Snow's head in this one, just because I felt like, I don't know, his reactions just kind of made him feel stupid. Like it wasn't, none of it was like as insightful as I was kind of hoping, because you know, if you're having this book from this character's head, you kind of are hoping that you'll see like, I don't know, his inner thinkings, his inner world, blah, blah, like all this stuff. And I feel in a way the movie did a better job of that. So yeah, like it was just kind of a letdown for me, because I feel like there was nothing really that different from the movie, nothing really that revolutionary difference from it. And yeah, I kind of enjoyed the movie better. I think that they did a better job of kind of leading into the spectacle of this and leading into really making Snow seem more like a villain than he did in the book, which maybe that was the point of it. Maybe it was that you're supposed to sympathize with him a bit more and see that like he isn't necessarily a terrible person and he's just kind of making these choices. But yeah, it just didn't fully work for me. And I still did give it a 4 star because I really enjoyed the story itself. It just, the writing wasn't fully there. Okay, so the next book that I finished is Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. And this one has, I saw it in I think at least like 3 different best up lists, but more specifically, I think it was the duology. So this one and the book after, which is Keeping 13, which I just don't feel like reading right now. So we're just going to be talking about this first book. I am really confused about how I feel. So this one, it takes place at like this private school. It's all teenagers, and we're following a girl who recently transferred to this school after being like bullied terribly at her old one, and the star rugby player of this new team who's already like basically been picked to play on all of these national leagues and all of this stuff. So it's a romance between the two of them as they are drawn to each other and very much like are fighting it for various different reasons. And why I don't know how I feel about this one is that it was very emotionally impactful. It was very emotional, and I think that is the part I like. That's the part that is kind of making me, you know, feel like this was a good book. But at the same time, I had a lot of problems with it. So we are following teenagers. One of them is about to turn 18, but the other one's 15, and it is very spicy. Like maybe not quite spicy, but like there is a lot of talk about sex. And while yes, that is normal for teenagers, that is definitely something that should be encouraged. I feel incredibly uncomfortable as an adult reading that, and the entire time I was reading it, I just kept thinking like, okay, these are children. These are children. I don't want to read from any of their thoughts about this stuff. And I think that was like the hardest part for me, is that it felt like maybe these characters should have been aged up a little. But it was definitely emotionally hard-hitting. It dealt with a lot of really heavy topics. And for those reasons, I liked it a lot, because there was just like a lot of really serious things that were being addressed, and like very, I feel like realistic ways that people were dealing with it, and just everything being addressed. Like it was just very emotional. And yes, it did almost bring me to tears at one point. And you know, I always like go back and forth in my head of like, if a book made me really feel emotional, is that indication that I liked it, or is it just something sad was happening? And I never really am able to like reconcile with like, was this actually something that was really good, or was it just hurting me in the heart? So yeah, I'm like really unsure how I feel about this one, and maybe I would have a better feeling if I did read the second one. The hold at the library is too long right now and for when I want to get this up. And yeah, I don't know. I keep going back and forth between a 3 and a 4 star, where there's a lot of things that make it more 3, but then the emotional impact makes it more 4. So it's like, I really don't know how I feel about this one at all. And I think this is one that's just going to stay in my head of very much like, I don't know how I'm feeling. So hi, I have 2 more books to talk about, and this is going to be a little crazy, but both of these are 5 stars. So yes, like definitely have been mixed feelings on some of these books, but overall, I feel like I am getting a crazy amount of 5 stars, and I could not be more thrilled. Obviously what I want is 5 stars. I just want to have every read be perfect. Not gonna happen, but I really did kind of go into this thinking that, you know, there would probably be a higher amount of books that I like because of these recommendations. And yeah, I feel like this is definitely going that way. So the first one we're going to talk about is Natural Beauty, and this is a very interesting portrayal of a woman who kind of becomes you can almost say she's being immersed in a cult of beauty. So we're following a young woman who is very financially struggling. She was a pianist, and recently, like in the past few years, hasn't really been able to perform because of personal reasons. And she gets recruited to work at this like elusive, very elusive and notorious like skincare company, or we can say more cosmetic company. So she's recruited to be a salesperson on the floor, and part of that is she is required, while working there, she's required to very much exclusively use the products that are sold in the store, have her own like personal vitamin regime, like very much like she has to be one of the testers for all of these new products and just like live by these products. And this company is sort of notorious in the world because a lot of their products are incredibly exclusive. They are insanely expensive, very much for the richest echelon of people. And a lot of their products they're either by like animal byproducts or like weird extracted from animals almost. So it's like something that an animal secretes, and they use this as some revolutionary technology. And we're following this woman as she really like becomes entrenched in this mindset of working in the store, where at first she's kind of just like, well, it's a job. And then you see her very much get like, she knows something is wrong. There's weird vibes, but she's also just going along with it and kind of really getting like immersed in this world, and just like she knows something is weird, but she's also just kind of accepting that. And it's very much just her kind of like, I feel like entering a cult mentality and very much being aware that something is wrong and that weird things are happening, but she is willingly going along. And it is just like an incredibly weird book. It has some incredible messages about beauty standards and just these weird lengths that people will go to, that they will do these extreme things without question, and that the morality of certain rich people, maybe, you know, like they will do anything for beauty. They don't care where it comes from. They don't care at what cost. It just, the beauty is the goal. And this was really fantastic. And it, I think, is classified as a horror, which is kind of like, it's one of those like quasi scary books where it's like the scary part is like just kind of not fully knowing what's happening and just the weirdness of it. And I really love this one. And then I read another horror book next, which is We Spread by Ian Reid, and this is another horror, and I think one of the saddest but also most unsettling books that I've really read in a while. So the book starts off as we're following an elderly woman in her home as she is just kind of like losing her passion for life, you could kind of say. So her partner has passed, she lives alone, and she's really kind of like losing like the ability and interest to live her life the way she used to. She used to be an avid reader, but now at her age, she's finding it really hard to focus on a book. She used to like host these elaborate dinner parties and loved hosting people, but most of her friends have passed at this point, and all of these things that she used to do with her partner, like she can't really do it anymore because she doesn't find that joy. And I have to say that the first half of this book was one of the saddest things I think I've really ever read, because it was just this really slow unraveling of a person's life and them slowly like, I don't know, like losing losing who they are, and just kind of accepting that her life used to be this huge vibrant thing, but now it is just like enclosed in this small apartment, and she really doesn't have anything else going on. So about halfway through the book, this elderly woman takes a fall in her home, and as per this agreed upon thing that she and her partner had, she is moved to this home that they had picked out at the time. But she doesn't remember this, so she feels like people are like they are kidnapping and stealing her away, and that they are stealing her life, and that they're just trying to get rid of her. When she is in this home, weird things start happening, like really, really weird, and like potentially nefarious things are happening. But the really scary part about this, and why this is such a scary book, is that we don't actually know if these are happening or if it is just her not really realizing what's going on in life. Like, is it actually like, are these workers plotting against her and doing this weird shit, or is she just not fully able to comprehend that she is in a home and this is what her mind is like doing to compensate for that? Like, are all these things happening? Are these things that people are telling her have happened? Have they happened? Or like, are they imagining things? Is she just forgetting things? And it was really, really scary because you don't actually know what happened. You really don't know. Like, the ending is so ambiguous of like, did things happen? We don't know. And I found that really, really scary. I'm like, yeah, this could be this insanely scary, weird thing happening, but it also could just be this woman's mind. And this one really, really impacted me. Like, this really has been sitting with me since I read it, and I can't get it out of my head. It truly was terrifying and just really like so much to think about, so sad and just so beautiful. So yeah, this is absolutely a 5-star read. So, so good. I think one of the best books I've read so far this year, which I know it is only like a month in, but still, like, this has been fantastic. Let's talk about the next book, which is Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. So I was definitely apprehensive going into this one because this is the third book in a series of like small town romances. The first one I really liked. Second I thought was terrible. So going into the third book is a little, you know, concerned. It could go either way. And I was really nervous about what way this would end up going. But I am so incredibly pleased with the fact that this one ended up being 4 stars. And I think actually it is going to take like the prize as my favorite book in this series. So we're following Sloane and Lucian, who have been characters in the other books. And it has been hinted at this whole time that they have some kind of like, they had a past. They had some kind of maybe romance in the past, and things went wrong. And something happened so that they seemingly hate each other now. Like something, they don't get along anymore, and we don't know why. But this book really delves into their past and them trying to work through like these feelings that they've always had for each other but never really been able to act on. So in it starts off with Sloane's father passing away, and Lucian and him were very close, and Lucian basically saw him as a father also. So something happens, there's some kind of project that the two of them start working on, and they're forced to spend all of this time together, that they're kind of like forcing each other to act civilly, more civil than they have in the past at least, because it's very much like they're trying to honor her father's memory and be like just kind of keep neutral for her mother, who is still very much grieving. And throughout they kind of start revisiting these feelings that they've had for each other for years and that they never managed to get over, and that both of them have been pushing down as far as possible. And this was really, really, really good. How many times can I say really? But yeah, just something about this romance really worked for me. I think it was just, I really like these characters, and I think that is definitely the biggest aspect, is that I like the characters and I did like seeing their interactions, and I really do like when there's some kind of pining, and I definitely felt like there was in this one. It was like just enough of like angst and yearning and pining for each other, and I really, really enjoy seeing that in a romance. So yeah, this one was definitely good. I really approve of this one having been on people's best of lists. Like, not just, wasn't quite enough for me to be a 5-star read, but still really, really good at 4 stars. Like, that is fantastic. And what really could have made it better? I don't know, honestly. I think it's just Lucy Score's writing isn't 100% there for me, but still, this was really good. Well, hello, we are down to the final 2 books to talk about. And one of them, just a mild spoiler, I think might be my favorite book so far this year. So the first one we're going to talk about is Magnolia Parks, and more of this series has been what has been so hyped online, and the amount of people I see talking about this series as a whole is kind of ridiculous, and everybody seems obsessed with it. And based on one book, I do not think I can agree. It was just, so this book itself, it is a very toxic relationship between Magnolia and BJ. They are these super rich, like 20 somethings in England who are like just like the top of society. they're really well known in the tabloids, like all this stuff, and they're always known for being like, even when they're not actually together, they're still kind of together. They're just one of those couples who they're always in each other's lives, and they like consider each other the love of their lives, but also they can't really find a way to work out the relationship and find a way for them to actually trust and be with each other. So I did in some ways enjoy this. It is like kind of bad. One thing I do like is I like books about the rich, just because it's like, you know, seeing rich people behave badly. I do like that because it's just like, I don't know, it's something fun seeing how the other half lives. But also this did give me a lot of Gossip Girl vibes. And in the, like, going way back to the original Gossip Girl novels, which I read when I was a teenager, love those because they were just like full of drama, full of ridiculous things happening. And this really, really gave me that vibe. So those parts I liked about it. But at the same time, I didn't like any of the characters in this. And I don't know if that's kind of the point of they're all like toxic rich kids who are just like being terrible and you're just kind of supposed to enjoy that. But I didn't like them. I didn't care. I didn't root for the relationship between Magnolia and BJ. Like I was actually like rooting against it. Like I thought both of them could do better. And like that part made it a little hard for me to get really invested in this. So I'm in this like phase of, I don't know, like if I'm going to want to go on with the series. I'm going to say the first book was definitely a 3-star for me. It was like perfectly fine. But I'm really like, do I want to read other books in the series and see if potentially I could like it more? Maybe. I don't know if I will like it more or not, but considering it. So yeah, this one was just, it was okay. Again, like nothing wrong, just fine. But now let us talk about what I think is probably the best book I've read so far this year, which again, it's only February, so still a lot of time for this to change. But Blood Over Bridehaven, so insanely good. And this is gonna be a hard one to explain because I feel like a lot of what I could say about it could potentially be spoilers, but we are in this magical town. I guess it's more of a city, like it's a city state, and we're following a scholar who is about to become, she is a woman and about to become the first woman ever appointed to like the High Mage Council. So we're accepted into the university to be a High Mage. Like it is this very patriarchal society that very much believes that women do not have a spot as an academic and women do not have a spot in the academics. And we're following one woman who very much like, she wants to prove them wrong. She wants to become part of this Mages Guild and like really just prove that women can do this. And like, this is her life goal. She is exceptionally smart and all she wants to do is just continue her education. And then when she does get in, she starts discovering a lot of secrets about this world that she's in that are a lot, and a lot of things that have been hidden from the entire city for years and years, and just learning a lot of things. And like, I don't really want to say anything else more than that because I feel like so many other things that I could say are spoilers, but just this was beautiful. This was beautiful. It was heart-wrenching. It was just incredibly infuriating. The society, the men, the everything. Like, it was just so good. And an absolute 5-star. Probably like so good. Could not stop thinking about it every time I put it down, and like all I wanted to do was pick this one back up. So this one truly deserves to be like one of the best books that has come out in a while, and I'm honestly kind of shocked like and disappointed that more people haven't talked about it so far. I think it's because it's indie, but I really hope that more people will read this one and pick it up because it was so good. And I guess with that is the end of this video. So I read 10 books that were recommended or that were on YouTubers best of lists. And I'm just gonna say first off, I'm going to be doing another installation of this because I have such a huge list of books that people read and I really want to keep reading because this turned out so well for me. So honestly, this experiment went really well. I think just a quick count, I think I came out with 4 or 5 stars, which hello, insane, this is ridiculous. And that is really like better than I was hoping. And even like there was multiple 4 stars, so really this went incredibly well and did kind of bring like proof to, yes, I can trust some YouTuber recommendations because they did very good on this one. And also like confirmed to me that reading people's best of books is does make it more likely that I'm probably gonna have some pretty good ratings in there. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna be doing a second installation of this because like I was saying in the intro, when I was picking up the books, I just made a list of like all of the books that I was seeing on people's best of lists. I have a huge list, and I think I'm just gonna go and select 10 more and have some fun with this. Have some fun trying to find some more 5-star reads. So thank you for watching. I would highly recommend like pretty much any one of these books for you to pick up if you're interested. Leave a comment down below if you've read any of these or what your best book of 2023 was, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Bye.